All right, Ian, we have some Q&A. Q&A time on the CU podcast. This is from at Unnecessary Fan, the complete Unnecessary Fan. Nintendo has now sold more than 750 million consoles worldwide. Wow, I guess it probably includes the handheld. What do you think is Nintendo's appeal, and why have they outlasted their competitors? Ian, take it away. Why do you think? Well, they've outlasted competitors in the past when they started, yeah.
So I think Nintendo's appeal partially goes back to now it's partially memory, it's partially nostalgia. Nintendo's been doing this for as long as most of us have been playing games. There are systems that came before it, but a lot of us, especially in our 30s, probably started on the NES. Iconic characters such as Mario and Link, have been around forever, and they, you get your customers initially by putting out a quality product, and Super Mario Brothers, Legend of Zelda, all the way up to your Super Smash Brothers games. They constantly put out a good product, but I think
Super Smash is the Avengers of.
Yes, but I think another thing is they don't really seem to, and even at times this has concerned me, but they don't really ever seem to care too much about the outside world and what anyone says. When you look at Nintendo, I mean, from then till now, in terms of what they release and kind of their public image, nothing has changed. There was a period in the early 2000s where they had some questionable magazine ads that were a little bit edgier.
Really?
I'm just saying, like, they all go through, like, you should look at some of the weird GBA ones. But, like, they had their Play It Loud era and stuff, but
in the 90s,
they've always presented themselves more or less in a uniform, family-friendly, we are video games sort of way. And by sticking to that and not bending too much to whims, while it's hurt them before, I think it's what always comes back around to help Nintendo, because people know what they're going to get. And even though people may for a few years be like, oh, I don't like Nintendo, I don't like this, I don't like that, you can always go back to Nintendo and basically know what you're going to get with one of their systems, what kind of games you're going to get on it, et cetera, et cetera. Even on their wildly out there ones like the Wii, you still got your Marios, you still got your Zeldas, you still got Mario Karts, you still got some classic standard games. So it's not that they've never changed, or that they're this unchanging force, but I think they tend to keep themselves pretty. Oh, that's what I'm looking for. I think there's a standard Nintendo, and I think because of that, people look at it as reliable.
It's weird because when we describe Nintendo as being the Disney of video games, I don't think they're run like a Disney though. They're not. They're run, even though it's a company that's has they probably have a board of directors and things like that. It's been around for over 100 years, 125 years. The company. Originally, obviously, it was family run for whatever, probably the first, 50 to 6 years. I don't know, without looking it up. They do their own thing as much as they possibly can. They go to the beat of their own drum. They have their own philosophy.
Sure.
So if you say Sony, you say Microsoft is like a software company, and now they're into video games. Sony's a tech company, now they're into video games.
Video games.
Nintendo has always been
video game company that's in the
no, they've always been an entertainment company. Nintendo. Right. So they always put the entertainment first, and then worried about what video games could we make that are fun, and then build the consoles around the games almost. Right. Whereas always for the other companies, and that includes Genesis, they always worry about the hardware first, what's going to hardware to, and now we'll worry about the game second, almost secondary. It almost seemed like Nintendo was always about, let's see what fun people can have, we'll worry about how we get there after, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it allows them to go off and do goofy things that we see, like the Labo, where people like them, be like, oh, what is this? The fact that they are doing that, you should applaud them for that. They're going so far out on a limb like that, because a huge company like that would almost never do something like that.
You still have a company that's willing to take these wild ass risks, and it may not work.
A company that big,
yeah, and it may not a company that big, and it may not work, but you've still got a company doing it,
yeah.
And they push forward other companies. I mean,
yes.
I'll never forget the whole Wii comes out and I think it was
Sony made fun of them.
I think it was
Yep.
Jack Tretton said, we would never have a controller that looks like a lollipop. And then they go and release a controller that looks
Actually
twice as
looked
much
like a lollipop.
Twice as much like a lollipop.
with the move with colored balls
Yeah.
on the top.
Yeah. So, it's funny. Everyone wants to act hard about Nintendo's for kids or for babies or for whatever. But all the other companies look at what Nintendo's doing, and then they decide, do we need to do this too?
Yeah. I'm sure that now that the Switch came out, I'm sure Sony and Microsoft are looking at, wow, can we do something like that?
Whether it'll ever actually come out, they had a serious fucking board meeting about it.
Or made up mocked up a prototype.
Yeah.
To say, oh, can we, what is the Switch doing? Why don't we have that?
That certainly wasn't just brushed off.
Yes.
They didn't go, oh, silly Nintendo. They went, fuck, is this something we need to
Yes.
think about now too? And maybe it's not. Maybe that's not what they're going to do, but still.
They had the conversation at least.
Right.
How do we do what they did where we can make a port? How can we get some of that market? I think it's interesting because when we talked about on end of how all the industry pundits, people we even know, said that the Switch was going to be a failure outright. I made fun of one article by some pretentious guy online that did it for The Atlantic about they don't know that Nintendo has so much freaking money that gives them the freedom to take these risks and to do this stuff. And you only need one to hit. One out of every 3 or 4 has to hit big. And that's what happened with the Wii.
Right.
Because of the Wii itself, Nintendo's fine forever. So they can do these risks. What?
Nintendo's fine forever. No, just you saying
They're...
that.
Do you know how much money they have in the bank?
Oh yeah, I know.
Tens of billions of dollars.
I know they're fine.
in their Scrooge money vault because they took the risks. Now, they didn't just do, the 360's coming out. Let's do Nintendo's version of the 360. If that had happened instead of the Wii, yeah, it would have been a fine system. They would have been lost by now. They would have been lost to, in the clutter of having 3 systems on the market that have literally 80% of the same games. There's no need for that. You need that sort of weird outsider, which is funny because it's like Nintendo's never been an outsider, but they're treated as such in the industry. They're always treated as, they're just doing their own thing. And yeah, it's cool they can have some games on their console that are also on PC or on the Xbox system or the Sony system, but they're still doing their own thing. You need that. You need something different.
Yeah.
That wasn't really the question that was asked, though, was it? It was, why do you think Nintendo's... Their appeal is that they put out stuff, they think about fun first. That's what they're saying. They think about they're in-house thinking, what do we like that's fun? Let's make something fun, and then hopefully they think it's fun, too. And most of the time, they're right.
They have
fun.
a reliable outward appearance, but they take a lot of risks where it matters.
Their first and second party stuff is out. It's better. Their first party stuff has always been, for the most part, miles ahead of the other first party stuff.
True.
They've had a better array of first party stuff, and that sells their systems. There you go.